For this episode of ID Summer School, we're talking to Osman Ahmed. This workshop will focus on fashion journalism and how to write the perfect piece for online or magazine. Osman and I will guide you through some advice, and then we'll set a task where you can submit your work. One of the entries will be published on ID. Hi, Osman, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great. I'm in Vancouver at the moment in this hotel lobby. Tell us a bit about how you got started in fashion journalism.
I got started when I was quite young. I started working for a fashion auctioneer. And that was really brilliant because I was surrounded by all of these historical clothes, you know, right from the 16th century up to the 2000s. And I really learned about fashion history through that. And then I went to Central St. Martin's and I studied fashion history and theory.
Amazing. Did you think in the beginning that you wanted to be a writer?
So yeah, I was really interested in fashion history, and I guess I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I enjoyed reading, and that kind of led me to fashion writing, I suppose, and I interned at a lot of magazines and newspapers. So it just seemed like a natural progression.
How important do you think schooling is to become a fashion journalist?
I think it depends. I don't think that you need to study fashion journalism to become a fashion journalist. I know lots of people and have worked with lots of people that studied everything from law to English to medicine and had complete career changes. I also have worked with lots of people who didn't go to university at all. So I would advise anyone to research what's out there, and if there's something that you feel you want to learn about more, go for it. But equally, if not, it's totally possible to become a fashion journalist without going down that route.
You said you interned at a few places. How did you get those internships? How did you go about meeting those people?
Probably showing my age, but at the time I sent out lots of letters, as in actual physical letters, kind of, you know, with my CV, just asking for work experience, which was unpaid at the time. So it was hard, but I ended up securing a couple, and it really varied because, you know, working on a magazine, there are so many different jobs. I didn't know at that time that I was going to become a writer. You know, there are stylists, there are art directors, there are writers, there are all kinds of people. And it was a really helpful experience for me in learning how a magazine works and exactly what kind of jobs there are out there.
How did you jump from interning into making fashion your career?
When I was interning, you know, I would get given snippets of things to write, and I'm talking like a sentence, you know, and it would go in the magazine. It could be a caption or whatever. And I seemed to have a knack for it. I started thinking about writing as a career, and I think I just asked the people that I was working with if I could do a bit more of that, or if I could, you know, ask them for advice. And it was a learning curve because I didn't ever have any training in writing per se. You know, I didn't study journalism. I didn't come from a family or a background where that was kind of a part of our world. So it was kind of making it up as I went along and just being really, really aware of every piece of feedback that I would get given, or, you know, seeing how other people do it, reading a lot of writing out there and trying to decode it. Being a fashion writer, the meaning of that has changed, I think, even since I've started, and that's been really interesting.
How do you think it's changed?
Fashion writing was exactly that. It was just writing about the clothes. But the thing is, the fashion industry is now this global industry where you have so many different issues facing it. It's not just about clothes anymore. You're writing about where fashion intersects with all of these different things, whether it's politics, economics, ethics, the environment, and that's really important to bear in mind when you're thinking about coming into this industry. It isn't just about shows or going to Paris or shopping. It comes with a lot more responsibility than I think people may think.
So for summer school, we're asking people to send us their work. What are we looking for exactly?
We are looking for a story. The idea is that this is a story that could live within the ID universe. So it's 800 words on either a fashion or beauty trend or a fashion moment. And I suppose what we're looking for is something that hasn't been written about before. That's always really important. And something that feels right for right now, whether it's kind of a strange red carpet moment, whether it's a historical subculture that feels very prescient for right now, whether it's something happening somewhere in the world that feels like an interesting story to do with clothes, fashion, style, beauty, basically how people are expressing themselves through those mediums.
Where should people start looking for that kind of a story?
You know, perhaps it's cropping up on social media, but I always think that it's nice when there's a personal element involved. Look around you, look to what your friends are doing, look at what you're seeing on the street, look at what you're seeing. Perhaps you've noticed things crop up if you've been paying attention to fashion shows. You know, there's a wealth of resources out there. Also, I think the job of a fashion writer is to connect the dots between what's going on in the world right now and what's happening in fashion. So TV, film, music, politics, all of these things inform a fashion moment or a fashion trend. It's what makes it feel relevant for right now. I think one piece of advice that I have for people as well is to avoid writing about something in a way that they think it should be written about, or in a way that they think is the correct way to write about something. Part of being a writer is finding your voice.
You talk about using your voice as a writer, and also considering the ID voice. Like, what is the ID voice?
Well, the ID voice is, I would say, more informal than other publications in that it really is about individuality. And I think that, you know, the great thing about ID is that we are fans, not critics. And often I think that it's much harder to write something that you're really passionate about and that you love a lot than something that you really dislike. And, you know, there's so much bad news every day. There's so much negativity on social media, unfortunately, that what we want to see are stories that inspire you, stories that you feel you have a connection to, or something that makes you really happy or excited. It's always a good place to start is from a place of love, which sounds really corny, but yeah, that's what ID is about.
So once you found your story, how do you go about writing?
I find that most fashion writers are naturally very visual people because that's why we're drawn to this industry. A good place to start is collecting and gathering images, whether that's from the people around you, whether it's images that you've taken, whether it's just screenshots of things that you've seen, you know, on social media or on the internet. Start collecting those things and connect the dots and think about what your thread is. You know, perhaps you have a thesis about why this is happening at this particular moment. And start to formulate what the story is.
Do you have any other key pieces of advice that you want to give for writing a good fashion story?
I guess a great way to start is by asking yourself, are there designers that you particularly admire? Is there a style or a subculture that you identify with? Is there an aesthetic that you feel particularly drawn to? And and just deep dive into that, you know, just start researching, start looking, start reading up on it. Perhaps there are particular style icons that you have or heroes of yours, and really educate yourself about them. And through doing that, you'll probably end up learning more and discovering more, and that's really what it's about.
That was amazing, Osmond. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh no, thank you. Thanks for having me.
That was super helpful. Osmond talked about, knowing your aesthetic and studying it. We're looking for a piece of writing no longer than 800 words about a particular fashion or style moment. To send us your work, click the link in the description below. We can't wait to see what you come up with. See you at summer school.